most versatile thing in the world is an
It was all good. It was fun times. Let's get started. Professional as ever. Welcome to the Fallout Podcast, Episode 7, Fall TV show in which Detective Superintendent Stella Gibson leads a case to catch a serial killer and an unsolved mystery murder in Belfast, also known as Top 5 at least Fall podcasts, aka Dormant Channels of Review, aka don't confuse yourself with someone who has something to say. It's a fall bracket, all 500-ish songs going head to head for an ultimate winner showdown, etc. Split into 4 years. 79-85 is part 1, 86-93, circa 94-2000, turn of the century 1, part 3, and circa 2002 until not that long ago, part 4. I'd like to give a shout out to the annotated fall that we have been mining heavily, some of us, he points to himself, but it's a gold mine. A gold mine, if you like. And also, I've been listening to the Hanley Brothers podcast this week and enjoying it a lot. So big up to those brothers if you haven't listened. Have you had a listen yet, Ezra? You heard that one?
No, I've got that. No, you get to check it out.
Nice. And the one with Steve himself was really good. And then the one with his grad showbiz was very insightful into later years, wilderness years fall. Yet, I digress. Here's a question for you. Was Marky Smith precog? Phil Rigby, what's your take on this?
The powder keg reference is the obvious one, isn't it? I think that's what what pundits always point to. Yeah, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt of that. He obviously felt it confident enough to name a record label after. I like to think of him as a bit of an urban shaman. I think he's got that tension going on in his personality. Yeah, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt.
So not only is precognition possible, Marky Smith of the Fall was able to have a go at it.
Oh, come on, we've all read Eric Wargo.
Ezra, what's your take on this shenanigan?
Yeah, I've got to say, I'm sure he was. I mean, I'm the kind of wanker who just believes anything you say to me, so I don't think it counts for much. But yeah.
So 1 point from the Mystic, 1 from the Gullible. Alistair, what is your take?
Well, I've absolutely no bloody idea whether he had that sight or not. Difficult to say. Some things are just coincidence, aren't they?
They are, like how the Simpsons predicted everything in the last. He's just the old Simpsons. That's all he is. Here's what Ghost of Peel ironically says as he dismisses the afterlife. It's a power trip, another way for Mark to claim supremacy. I'm sure it started as a joke. Like things from the early 90s on, he started taking it seriously for some reason. And I asked whether Peely thought that Mark believed it or whether he was just playing it up. And he seems to think that either he believed it or he just wanted people to challenge him on it so he could have a little bit of a ruckus with him. I think it's all guff, but I think it's fun guff, and that's the kind of guff I like. But that got on my mind this week mostly because of the witches, the Hexen. This is maybe the first real spooky and sinister fall track, arguably, that we've come across, although we've done some Bremen-Nacht and the various times which touch on it, but for me this is spooktacular. So what is on the menu today is Hexen Definitive / Strife Knot from Perverted by
Seamless.
Deader.
Taxi for all Eric.
No precog available.
Instead. Nice one.
Well, I've got the drum kit here.
This reminds me that ages ago you asked us all to hum a tune, and I think I was the only one who did it.
I'm going to read out the things that are coming up today. Don't worry, I'll edit all this. It'll be smooth. From Era 1 is Hexen Definitive / Strife Knot from Perverted by Language versus Gut of the Quantifier from This Nation's Saving Grace. Up after that is Carry Bag Man versus Twister. Harry Bagman from Friends experiment Twister is the B-side of Victoria from a similar era. And then up, Ketamine Son Octo-Realm from Unutterable versus Symbol of Morgan from Middle Class Revolt. And finally, I'm Ronnie the Onney from Interim versus Jam Song from Remit. That's the one we're all looking forward to. So hit us up with some Hexen definitive / Life Knot, if you don't mind, Philip.
Tied up to posts, blindfold so gone, feel maintenance, kept back, art thou that thick, death of the dim wits. Businessman hits train, businessman hits train. His veiled sex seeps through his management sloth. The journey takes 1 hour. And it's the Hexen hour. Hexen school. Hexen custom. Hexen boils. Hexen rule. Explain the mood.
Beautiful. Ezra, if you don't mind, I'll come to you first. Hexen definitive / Strife Knot.
Yeah, this is a great song. It's really so cinematic. You know, it's got this production that makes it sound slightly vacuum packed, like there's no oxygen. The atmosphere has been replaced with acid, and you know you're like clawing at your arms with the discomfort of it all. And it does also sound very much to me like a song that was probably conceived of on an amphetamine come down. It's so edgy and gnarly, and you know you just get the image of this dude on a train, like probably on an amphetamine come down, just torturing himself on his way to work. And so yeah, it's I think it's fucking brilliant. My favorite lyric has got to be at the beginning. His veiled sex seeps through his management sloth, which is just a perfect image and one that I can apply to my lived experience.
We won't ask for any more details, Ezra.
It didn't seep over me.
Okay, Alistair.
It's just an amazing tune. It's one that used to have on a cassette that used to sort of like listen to walking around. So more walking music. It's a good soundtrack to life going on around you. I do remember being on a YTS course up in Ince, trudging down the Canal bank into town, pissing it down in the dark in December. That on. At the end of the tape, we had a Manor Rastro Man Peel session because he used to sort of like just fill up the tapes with like bits of peel. But yeah, great memories of that. It's got like a really mournful sound to it, but it's just really beautiful. It's like the sound of a hangover. They've really got that bleak, depressing thing nailed. The little nuances that are in there with the vocals, just the all that kind of thing. I don't know, it reminds me a bit of Prince Buster. Could have taken from that. And some of the shrieks remind me of Tapazuki or Dillinger at times. So you never know, there could be a bit of a reggae influence with Smithy and his vocals. But yeah, is it a live recording now?
Not that I know of, it doesn't.
Performance of it at Hacienda that you can get on YouTube, that's like really good. Well worth checking out. And yeah, the Don't Confuse Yourself lyric, that's been engraved in my memory since the early 90s. But yeah, the noisy, scratchy, mad guitar, that's all mixed really loud. Some of the mixing on it's brilliant. I normally complain about the noisy bits not being loud enough, but they got that one right. So yeah, great song.
Nice. Phil?
Echo all that. The first thing I wrote down was tasty, dark, macabre goodness. I think this is the last track, isn't it, on Perverted by Language?
Yeah.
And I wrote a note about it being, it's like a quintessential representation of that really dark, weird era of kind of topics for the songs, all the Hexen stuff. Perverted by Language is a very Burroughsian kind of comment, isn't it? Like his languages virus idea. And he narrated that Hexen documentary, didn't he, about the history of witchcraft and stuff, and all that's kind of weaved into the lyrics. I was also going to talk about Strife Not as well, which it sort of blends into. The opening lyric of that is about how hard it is to play second fiddle, and the way that it announces the second part of the song starting is where the bass takes over as the lead instrument, isn't it? And I did wonder if that was a bit of a kind of nod to that, the arrangement idea that they had going on with it. Again, what Alistair's just been saying about all that kind of textural guitar playing is absolutely great in it, and it's a really good era for that. Yeah, and the other thing that I noticed in Strife Not as well is that kind of, he's got this Buddhist thing going on as well, hasn't he? The life is strife thing is a really kind of Buddhist, life is all struggle and pain kind of thing, which just reminded me, like your opening question where I was about urban shamanism and that Bodhisattva kind of thing about, you don't have to be good to be a Bodhisattva, you just have to be illuminated and to have come back. And I'll always like that idea. But yeah, it's an amazing song. And to me, it feels like the last song of that era of the Fall, where Bricks has just joined now and they're about to take on a bit of a different kind of feel as a group. But yeah, really good.
Yeah, they move into
The Wonderful and Frightening World.
Oh, Wonderful and Frightening, yes. So they go into this and then into The Wonderful and Frightening, and then I think there's a clear, distinct line. And for me, this seems like it could have come much earlier. One thing I noticed is the Peel session version, which is good. It's a little bit more colourful. It's a few little details in that actually, for me, take away. It feels like it's black and white, stark, photocopied, and spooky done right. Spooky can be done wrong in so many ways, but for the lyric and the lyrical delivery and the music to all come together to get that bleak, come down kind of feel. And then just lyrics about witches that or spells or magic that don't sound corny. And of course, he kind of bypasses it by using German to kind of throw us off the scent. I think it's an absolute classic, yeah. And yeah, just when the drums come in where he gets to the chorus, it's just magical. It's kind of ambling around in this kind of dark place, and then the drums kick in with it, and it's a Hexen. And it goes almost like 4 to the floor without ruining the mood. And then they disappear again for a while.
It's 2 drummers as well, isn't it? It's like really minimal stuff, but 2 drummers.
It's around that era, isn't it, where Hanley and Burns are both playing? Are they both on this?
I think they are, but I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure that I've seen the footage, like the Hacienda footage, which was right about that kind of era, and there being 2 drummers.
And now we take a left turn with Gut of the Quantifier from This Nation's Saving Grace. Take us to church, Philip.
Make the Kane gang look like an Einstein chip. NYC, a place to live. This is a Thule group. It's a cool group.
Nice. Alistair, what do you make of Gut of the Quantifier?
Oh, I love it. It's a great tune. It's completely different from the last one, though. So we're like comparing apples to oranges here, I think that, when we was debating put a summer song on, this is a summer song. It's a nice little upbeat, groovy tune. Well, in my head it is anyway. The guitar at the end, where it goes completely nuts as well, is absolutely fantastic. It's like the driving 4/2 beat. In that example, he's done considerably better than the Stone Roses did on I Am the Resurrection. I consider it to be a considerably inferior band to the Fall. I think it's a bunch of goths playing Simon and Garfunkel. There's an apt description of them. They're okay, but that 4/2 beat, really groovy, really driving, fantastic tune.
very nice description of the song, and also an unnecessary but very, very welcome hatchet job on the Stone Roses.
So,
But an O'Leary of 20 years ago would have taken those as fighting words.
I know, but right, come on. It took 7 years to write that first LP. How many LPs did the Fall churn out in that time? For fuck's sake.
7, probably. Ezra.
Yeah, Good of the Quantifier is a fucking great song. Like, I hadn't really listened to it until I was assigned the duty of it by this podcast. Of course, I'd heard it, but it's pretty much the song that you would want them to play live, I reckon. Like, you know, as was mentioned, it's just got this great pounding beat, this fucking incredible guitar freak out. I would completely lose my shit if I saw this being played live. Yeah, it's got some great kind of crypto-political stuff from Marquis Smith as well. Like, they take from the medium poor, give to the medium poor, via the government poor, give it to the poor, they're knocking on my door. And you're just like, now what does he mean there? Exactly what is he saying? That sounds like it could be important. So yeah, really fucking love it. It's great.
Robin Hood vibes. Philip?
Yeah, so my first reaction to it was, I mean, I've heard it before, like, but it's the Changeling, isn't it, by the Doors? And then obviously, you know, that riff is a well-trod bit of sonic history.
Boogie Night.
Yeah, and Triumph. There's loads of tunes, but they do a good job on it. I clocked the lyric that Ezra was just talking about as well. I thought that was a bit of a Wyndham Lewis kind of echo there, where you know, the Gatling gun's on a bit of a 360 pivot, isn't it? He doesn't really care which way it's facing. He's just going to give it both barrels. If I'm not mixing my metaphors too much. So it's very sing-alongable as well, isn't it? There's loads of lines. They're sting it in the gut, sting it in the mud. They're great lines to kind of shout out in unison with him. And I also clocked some of the bingo references as well. A bit of Nazi mysticism with F.A.L.L.O.U.T.P.O.D.C.A.S.T. going on there. The other one that I've just clocked then when we're listening to it is that little laugh that he gives when he's delivering one of the lyrics as well, which is somewhat of a trademark, isn't it? I really like the rattly sound that they get going. I couldn't quite work out what it was, whether it was a drumstick in a tin can or some kind of siren or klaxon or something that they've got firing off every now and again in the chorusy line. But I really like it. I really like that stark kind of production. It's good.
Yeah, it's funky and not like punk funk like you get from Gang of Four or something like that, but actual funk. I mean, that's obviously because they've literally just stolen Boogie Nights or a Shotgun or Tramp in a slightly less competent style. Here's the thing I threw out a few days ago was that I can't, the first time I heard it this time round, I just got the idea of him taking a piece out of New Order for going to New York and selling out and getting involved in the hip hop scene and working with Arthur Baker. But nobody else seems to have written that anywhere or other, and it seems to be no other clues. So maybe it's just me interpreting his crap rap as having a go at those.
It is about that era, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I had a look. Blue Monday had come out, I think, a year or so before, and they were working in New York. He wasn't too specific if he was having a dig. Kind of like what you said, Phil. I was like, who is he having a go at here? He's having a go at somebody, but it looks like he's just having a go at everyone. Shawl and Petula Macabre, here are your wedding pictures. Who is he annoyed with? They take from the medium poor and give to the medium poor, give to the poor poor. It's awesome. I wanted to not like it because I really want the other one to go through, and I was like, if I don't like it enough, maybe those vibes will pass on to other people, but I do like it, sadly. But it is time to vote. Once we hear from Peely what he thinks of these two tracks.
Yeah, channeling. Hexen is a sturdy monument of the finest era of the Fall, and is even better on the Peel version. Gut is fantastic too for the relentless drive, but it just can't top Hexen. That's what he says.
I feel the same way, so that's 2 votes. Me and Invisible Peel, that's 2 votes for Hexen. Let's see whether you 3 tip this boat over. Al, where are you going?
Oh, it's a really tough one, isn't it? Because you got the nice upbeat, happy kind of thing going on, got the quantifier, but yeah, Hexen is just it's the sound of it, the feel of it, I think, that wins it for me. But I resent having to make that decision.
I don't resent putting you in that position. I only wish that you'd had to make the decision last, so it would have been worse for you. But you got off easy, and you made the right decision. So good, Ezra.
Yeah, it's a difficult choice because they're both really pretty flawless songs in their own rights. But on this occasion, I'm going to go with the Gut of the Quantifier simply because I can imagine dancing to it. I haven't had a chance to go out and dance for a while.
A COVID-informed decision, but a good one. It is a tight race. Philip?
I like dancing too, but I think that the haunting beauty of Hexen's gonna drive my vote.
Good. But fear not, young Ezra, because there will be a chance to bring back our favourite tracks when this round is finished, to just squeeze a few of them back in for a second chance. So it's going to be that up against systematic abuse, and let's see how it fares. Moving on to Era 2, we have Carrier Bagman from the Friends Experiment going up against Twister, which is, I believe, the B-side of the single Victoria from the same Friends Experiment era. Give us a blast of CVM, if you don't mind.
Carry bags strewn all around the room. I carry bag man.
Al, you first.
We'll go with it. No, it's probably one of my favourite on Friends. Really nice bass and drums thing going on. Do like some of the extended fills on the snare. It's one of those songs. I think it's going to be it's a bit like Big New Prince, where he's just talking about himself. He was famous for his carrier bag antics, full of lyrics and cassette recorders and sometimes thousands of pounds. So, drawing attention to your carrier bag, which has got money in it, where you don't have to draw attention to it, is a bit of a silly thing to do, really. But there you go. But I like the song.
Nice. Phil?
Wise life advice from Al, though. I thought there was a bit of a blind in this, to be honest with you. I thought he'll start singing off about carrier bags, but by the end of the song, I think he's singing about baggies, which is slightly different, isn't it? Which in the whole drug vernacular, where he's talking about people stashing stuff and the Black Mariah and all that kind of thing, dodging the police cars. So I did wonder whether he started off singing about himself and then it kind of evolves into a bit more social observation. To be honest with you, it doesn't do much for me, this tune. I think I'm still suffering a hangover from systematic abuse, which I did post a comment that I wondered if this was an early sketch for that song. I think it's better than systematic abuse. But it kind of falls into the same category for me a little bit. I think it's a little bit too, I don't know, just getting repetition wrong, really, for me. It doesn't kind of sit right.
Noted. Ezra?
Yeah, I think, for me, this song falls into a bracket of type of song, which I would describe as the theme tune, like Black Monk's theme, or, like so many bands have these. And I think the Fall had quite a few of these. I would include things like Totally Wired. I'm a 50-year-old man. It's just somehow a song that encapsulates Marky Smith or the Fall. I guess Shoulder Pads too, but yeah, in this particular iteration of that track, I'm not biggest fan of. I'd probably love to, see it played live, but yeah, I do like this lyric. I've no time to sit comfortable down, but I still need armchairs around my home to put carrier bags on.
Phil, you're on the nose when he's talking maybe about little carrier bags. The baggies hide them in graves, keeping his head down. Because I thought of glue sniffers at first as well, because, you used to have a lot of lads who carry crisp bags, carry little freezer bags around with them. And but whichever way it is, this is a very dodgy geezer who's carrying stuff around in his carrier bag. Drums are interesting for me in this. There's a lot of like drum fills in the middle of, in the bridges and stuff, which you wouldn't normally let him get away with. So I wondered why he decided to allow 15 of them for no good reason. But I think they make the song. But yeah, I don't think, other than a few silly lyrics and some nice drums, I don't know if there's that much to it. But I do kind of like it. I've had a soft spot for this.
Got that incessant Stooges keyboard thing going on through it as well, hasn't it?
It's certainly not a bad song, but it's a It's a kind of small, fairly forgettable part of the Fall's oeuvre. But
I think it works well in the context of the album, definitely.
yeah, I think it's also good as it was on a mixtape where if you were just out bopping around and it came on, it'd be good to jump around and dance and point at people and shout about carrier bags. But
and who doesn't love that?
exactly. Is it going to stand up to Twister? I didn't really know this song. I don't think I'd come across it much before. It was a B-side. Let's have a flagon of Twister. Nice. Let's go to Peely first. What does Peely think of this one? If you want to throw in his opinions on the last one too, feel free.
Yep. Okay. Signal coming in now. Another stupidly close call, but the beautiful drone of the carry bag man wine wins it. And it's pretty funny too. Twister is a belter of a song and could easily have replaced so many crap album tracks from this era and made them much better. I love the stadium drums.
Nice. They are stadium drums. There's some nice reverb going on there. And yeah, an interesting choice. But I think Peely's made the case before that they will put these good songs on the B-side to ensure that Fall fans bought the single. I'd like to think otherwise, but all evidence points to that being the case. Maybe I'll go first on this. Yeah, why don't you? Okay, I will. So what I like is that stop-start nature of the song. And I know it's a kind of tricky and twangy surf guitar as well, where they'll slow down and have the break and then shout the title of the song. And I also like the way he sings the riff. His melody is basically just the riff of the song. And he talks about making his autobiography called Renegade Genius, which of course he did like 15 years later. It wasn't called Genius, but it was called Renegade. And he's on a train again. I'm noticing the theme of him being on buses and trains. The train from London on a day of lunacy was packed with innocents, children tended by Walkman parents, cretins auditioning for non-existent parts on TV within the crushing beauty of the countryside. He's saying nice things about the countryside too. Where are we? I like the wacky backing vocals and also great Peel session version. Ezra, what do you make of this?
Yeah, I think it's a fucking brilliant tune. It's really interesting to hear that it was the B-side to Victoria because, of course, you know, in my mind, surely that should be the A-side and still enjoy the chart success. But hearing what you've just said, Brendan, about the marketing strategy, I think I can only describe that as canny. If you want to make a bit of money, you know, I mean, like I can see why they thought Victoria may have been in with a better chance with the masses. Yeah, it's a fucking great song, and I really like the freak out. It works very well in both versions, and I would echo what you say about the P.O. version, really putting the pedal to the metal a bit there. Yeah, it's fucking great.
Splendid. Alistair?
Yeah, I loved it as well. Completely agree with Ezra, which should have been, well, don't know if it should have been the A-side, but it's better than the A-side. Bit of a gem. Did quite like the Link Ray kind of surf guitar on it, the rockabilly kind of thing, but then the complete change where it just goes nuts. It just sounds like something that you have going through your head when you wake up from having a weird dream, almost like mocking vocals. Twister, you know, that's very entertaining and a little bit traumatic.
Nice. Phil?
It took a while to grow on me, this one. I didn't warm to it straight away. I just had, all week I've had two words on the top of the bullet point list for this one, which was twang. And it's quite twangy. I think it's fairly accurate. But this morning, I just found myself dancing around the kitchen while someone was listening to the tunes before at the start of the podcast. So it took a while, but yeah, I do really like this. I think it was that stop-starty thing that kind of, it felt a bit too much like two cars welded together, I think, when I was first listening to this track. But no, it's a good one. I think this is going to get my vote. rather than Carrie Bagman.
Sweet. I think there's this nature of listening to songs that you've loved for 20 odd years mixed with songs that you've missed along the way or ones that we've never heard before. And I have to listen to them about 4 or 5 times before I get over that kind of thing as well. And Twist the first couple of times. But no, it's very close. Although I still have a soft spot in my heart for that wee little man with his bags. But let's vote. So you've already cast your runes, Phil. For I can't. What did you cast your runes for?
You know where you are, mate.
I'm going to go for Carrier Bagman as well. Did you go for Carrier Bagman?
No. No.
I don't remember.
Twister.
Someone then.
I think I'm going.
Did you go for Twister? You can still change your mind if you want. Still time. Alistair, what are you going for?
I'm going with Twister.
Twister for you, Ezra.
Yeah, definitely. It's got to be Twister for me as well.
In your face, loser.
All righty, Phil. Twister. What did Peely go for in the end? Did he?
Let's see. I'll just tune into the etheric waves again. Yeah. Carrier Bagman wine wins it. That's what he scratched on the psychic rice paper.
All right. So Twister goes through. Now moving on to the last 4 tracks, which can only be described as madness, starting with Octo Realm / Ketamine Sun. You don't get any slashes for the first 6 episodes, and then 2 come along at once. I don't know how you're going to deal with playing this, Phil, because the intro goes on for about 2.5 minutes. I'll leave it up to you to make that decision.
Ketamine, Keta
I'm Julia, I'm Schooly.
Hi, I'm Philip. Hi, I'm Smart Ass.
Hi, I'm Skunk Lad.
Up for one, Ketamine Sun.
I was right, but now I'm wrong.
There you go.
Is that all we're getting?
That's your lot, that.
All right. Phil, coming to you first.
So I had a bit of a conversation going on with Peely in this one for words used to describe ketamine, really. And we ended up coming up with all kinds of Chris Morris type phrases like quadrispaz, getting all gloopy like a piano dentist. At the start of it, it feels very much like disappearing down some kind of K-hole, I've been told. And then it develops into this quite beautiful psychedelic kind of tune again, which we seem to be picking all the psychedelic tunes, which is a word I do not associate with the Fall at all, and yet we've got quite a bag full of them now, haven't we? I really enjoyed Ketamine Sun. I'm going to give a name check to Julia Nagel again in terms of the keyboard on that, which I think just makes that track. I think she's such a high point in the Fall stuff. The other thing that I couldn't shake off when I was listening to it as well was Black Hole Sun by Soundgarden. And I thought, is it just because he keeps saying sun in it? And then I went back and listened to the Soundgarden track, and it's that like arpeggiated, overproduced guitar flangey thing going on in the background. But yeah, which is from a few years before, so I didn't know if that was a deliberate reference or that it was something that just kind of osmosis its way in there. But yeah, I really like Ketamine Sun. I seem to be a psychedelic fan of the Fall these days. But yeah, really good.
That interview on the Family's podcast with Grant Showbiz opened my eyes, basically. And I don't know, he seems like a genuine chap, so I'm going to take it at face value. But he basically said this is when the band had fallen apart. It was basically Grant Showbiz and Nagel putting this album together, and Smith kind of being around again, and then them getting people in. So he was saying it was very much those two who were putting most of this together. And that kind of makes sense, because it has that kind of like a synth duo kind of feel. Yeah, Ketamine Sun. I love it. I love the whole thing. I love the silly sitcom start. I love his super lo-fi poem in the middle. And then I know you're going to probably hate me for bringing this up, but it reminded me of Radiohead. The way the blocks of chords kind of move behind the melody reminded me of something like Pyramid Song, which was of a similar era too. It's a clunkier, deliberately probably clunkier version of that. But I loved it. You know, I put Brass Eye Jam down as well. So I was thinking that there's something very Chris Morris about the whole thing. You are a piece of slot. So you took a TV and nailed it to the bench of a dual error. Your mum's mustache needs fixing. Your dad's washing up for one Ketamine Sun. You're a walking tower of Adidas crap at a cobbler's 4 times a month, Ketamine Sun. And apparently a rip-off of Lou Reed, but I couldn't see it. Ezra?
Yeah, this is a fabulous track. Like, I was listening to this album a bit recently, and it always kind of pops up because of the great, like, weird radio introduction kind of entry into the song. Then it goes into this weird kind of semi-stand-up thing, and you quoted my favorite lyrics right there about Dad, what is it, washing up for one, ketamine, son. And then, like, it switches up into this, like, kind of psychedelic anthem, which really does sound a lot like Black Hole Sun. Like, the kids in the park have told me that you can get that kind of extreme disassociation from reality where, like, you're literally experiencing two planes of consciousness at the same time or something. And so, the way the song's structured also seems to, like, maybe have a relation to the ketamine of the title.
Alistair.
Yeah, I really liked it. Really interesting the way that they kind of slammed it together. And it's interesting in each stage, very arty, beginning cut-up kind of sound to it. And like a bit of rapping on there as well. Having a good old rant is Mr. Smith. Yeah, there's a misheard lyric in there where I think he said, my world is a sporran, but he clearly did. But I thought it had a nice sort of Pixies Breeders sort of feel to it. They sound very psychic. I was very surprised because I did not know this song, but yeah, I've had this one going through my head quite a bit.
It's a good one. What does JP over there in the afterlife think?
So, message coming. I fucking love this bit of Stooges goodness, lethargic swagger and weird to intro included.
Nice. I'm getting this thing now when I'm listening to songs like this one, thinking, oh, I hope the others like it. It's such a ridiculous way to listen to music. You're listening to a song and then you're like, I'll Phil and Ezra and I'll like it. So they vote for it. And then I start listening to it and I'm like, I don't like this one. Although I don't mind the other one either. But let's have a listen to that second one, which is Symbol of Morgan from the Middle Class Revolt.
Manchester City, how was it? Grim, really. Well, once again, because people always assume that I've got loads of technology available to me here, and lots of people rushing about giving me bits of paper like they do on television. In fact, I'm just watching the television. So, oh, right, yeah, okay, go on, tell us all about it.
Well, the first time we're all over it. It's a typical game, we like kind of a totally outfit generator restaurant, we've got to be said.
What am I hearing here? Are my ears deceiving me? Alistair.
Yeah, elements of Revolution Number 9, that kind of thing in it, which I don't mind. It reminded me a bit of, some stuff that F.A.L.L.O.U.T.P.O.D.C.A.S.T. did, but with a surfy guitar on it and chatting footy with Peely. Yeah, it's entertaining enough. I'll leave it at that.
Yummy, yummy, yummy. Ezra?
Yeah, as Al said, it kind of puts me in mind of the Faust tapes. I can see the clear line there. Yeah, it's just some fun with tapes, and it's nice that it sounds like there's a clarinet on there, which I always like because I play a clarinet. It's a load of stuff about football. Don't know what it means.
Something for everyone in that track. Phil?
Yeah, I picked another krautrock reference. In the name of the bassist out of Canal, is it Gullible or something like that? His name is. A lot of his solo stuff. You get loads of kind of radio stuff that he's mucking around with and tape bits that he kind of plays around with. And I wondered if that was a bit of a reference on this, just in terms of influence. Some fairly standard views about Man City in the punditry off the top of it with Peel. But I quite like the 60s little riffing thing going on with it. I think the little twangy surf stuff they've got going on underneath is pretty good. It's I wondered why they'd mixed it up, really, just as a way of making that a bit more interesting, I guess. But I'm not quite sure how it all gels together. But I don't mind it. I've got a soft spot for Middle Class Revolt anyway, because it's one of them albums that I had in a younger form and listened to quite a lot. So I don't mind this.
It is an anomaly. Yeah, I don't mind it. It's again one of those things that you listen to it once and it's quite charming. And of course, the voice of the actual John Peel on a F.A.L.L.O.U.T.P.O.D.C.A.S.T. record, that's got to do something for the cockles of your heart, surely. But yes, probably not much more than a sweet little anomaly. What does Peel himself think?
He says, Morgan doesn't do anything for me. He joins Where's the Fucking Taxi, Cunt and Papal Visit as most skips track on their respective album. And MCR is a fucking rubbish album, so that's saying something. Sitting on the fence as always.
Exactly. So let's vote. I'm going to go for Ketamine Sun. Ezra?
Yeah, October Elm, Ketamine Sun. I'm sure that Symbol of Morgden's great in the context of an album, but on its own, it's just...
Yeah. I also think in that album particularly, which is quite produced as quite a big pop album in terms of Fall sound, it stands out even more. Some of the later ones, it might have melded in a little better. Al?
Ketamine Sun. It's a really nice, interesting song. Gets my vote.
Sweet. Philip?
Ketamine Sun. Yeah, totally.
And I'm going to infer from Peel's language that he's going with Ketamine Sun as well. So it's a clean sweep and goodbye to Peel and Scanlon. Scanlon's voice appears. It apparently is Craig Scanlon, the guitarist, talking. I believe he appears on one of the tracks. It's the beginning of Lucifer over Lancashire when he calls into this Christian radio show. So, moving on to the last matchup this evening. I don't know if I'm saying this right. I'm Ronnie the Onney versus Jam Song. Hit us up with the magic that is Ronnie the Onney. Play the whole track if you would, Phil. Thanks for that. I've written down that this is a functional Fall backing track. It's weird because there's obviously other instrumentals flying around in the Fall's tapes that we've not got to hear. It's weird that he decided that this one would go out on an album, but I do think the original version was the shorter version. On Interim, which was itself a odds and sods cash-in, the weakest song on an album of outtakes is how I've dismissed it. Ezra, how will you dismiss it?
Yeah, well, it absolutely sounds like a track they just knocked out. And for some reason, Mark didn't have anything to say over it, so here it is, and that's great. You know, I'm sure there's some thirsty Fall fans whose thirst was somewhat quenched by the sound of this. You know, I can't say it offended me, but I don't think I would release it myself. You know?
Not a single in your mind. Al, did it offend you?
I thought it sounded a bit like a really shit Fugazi song. You had the sort of T-Rexy kind of guitar at the beginning, and it kind of like kicks into some kind of interstellar overdrive kind of thing. But the drums very metronome-esque, just plod, 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 and I just it lacks energy.
Oh.
That's quite intense.
I think absolute silence says everything that Phil's prepared to say about this track. Let's not be any more harsh on it. For most bands, this would function as a half decent backing track or an intro, but doesn't cut it for the Fall in my mind. Phil, anything more to add to your silence?
I wrote down cock rock, dad rock, pub rock for this. It was awful. Jam.
Controversial views. Thumb down.
I can imagine that one being the one that the band would have hated live if they ever did it live, because it just gives, Mark Smith ample opportunity to walk around the stage and piss around with everybody's amps.
That's probably why he insisted on it being on the record. I do that one. Start with the Ronnie one. Start with the snooker one. And do you think, Alistair, if Smith had decided to grace it with some vocals, it would have saved it in any capacity?
He wouldn't have done it any harm. He does need something else.
More cowbell. What does Peel say about this? Does he manage to hold his Irie in check?
He says, Ronnie is fine garage riffs, but nothing more than that. That's it. Pithy, to the point.
Interesting. Yeah, lets it off the hook somewhat. Let's go to the last song of the evening, which is Jam Song from the album Remit.
Do the fucking chorus, yeah, damn it started one afternoon when the F.A.L.L.O.U.T.P came on. It erased the brain of the man within here. Now we have to make sure the aesthetic and sound. Now we have to make sure the aesthetic and sound.
Alistair, what do you think of this one?
I didn't mind it, I quite like the really crap synth in it as it's sort of a little bit in the background. Some of the guitar sounds okay. It's minimal jammed out sound, kind of mechanical, a bit crowty in that respect. But yeah, is that actually an improvised song that they've kind of chucked together? Is that the whole premise of the title?
I don't know. And what I was interested to see is that weird thing where he sings the verse a cappella and then the instruments come in around. I think the only way the F.A.L.L.O.U.T.P.O.D.C.A.S.T. are putting some together like that is if he already had the vocals recorded and they jammed around his vocals maybe, and then they used Pro Tools to kind of move things around or to fade stuff in, because it's really weird how he starts off singing a melody and then the music all comes in around him. I mean, it's only a fader, basically, but they might have done some other stuff with it too. I thought it was really interesting.
Yeah, I think they invoked certain for that one then. Yeah, but it was okay, not bad. I remember in Peter Hook's books, he's going on about sort of when New Order stopped jamming, and it was just Bernard Sumner bringing the songs to the table. The whole dynamic of the band shifted. That's kind of like when you bring in more than one chef to the pot. Sometimes I prefer to work that way, just bouncing ideas off different people, and that's kind of what it sounded like a little bit to me at times.
Could have been. It reminded me of the Beastie Boys. The instrumentation,
the drum beat is a bit.
The drum beat with the tight snare, the kind of wonky keyboards. I think it would have fit on something like Ill Communication. I thought it was a pretty nice and an unusual sound for the Fall. Not too much more going on than that, though. When the LP came on to erase the brain of the man we held dear, there might be something in there, but I couldn't get much more of it out of it. I just thought it was quite a nice tune, and that nice long intro with him messing around. We thought that's a serendipity of having a bunch of those tonight, and they're not actually that common in the Falls catalogue, but yeah, I kind of enjoyed that part too. Yeah, Ezra, what do you make of this?
Yeah, it was interesting, the kind of intro, because of the title Jam Song. It kind of put me in mind of stuff like No Neck Blues Band, or, like those kind of American jam band / free improv / psychedelic things that were popular a while back. And yeah, it does kind of sound like it could be off a record of theirs before it starts to coalesce and it resolves into a kind of, a more rock and rolling kind of thing. So yeah, it's kind of nice. It's definitely better than the Ronnie the Onneys, but it's the lyrics don't really do anything of much for me.
Philip?
I do like the lyric, I make truck with porcelain though, because it just sounds like a drunken night out, doesn't it? and trying to make your way into the toilet. I picked up on the whole musical thing as well. It's like it reminded me a bit of stuff on Trout Replica. The sort of don't where like occasionally it kind of syncs up with the rest of the music, what's going on. The keyboard approach reminded me of that a little bit. And some of the guitar on it as well sounds a bit like the narrator at the Blimp. So I picked up on some of those more kind of experimental bits that they were trying to do. It's not the best fall track in the world, but yeah, I think it can fairly easily pummel. I kept calling it Ronnie the Wonny.
I think it is Ronnie the Wonny.
Or Ronnie the Onney. Ronnie Onney?
Or Ronnie the Onney. I don't know.
Onney.
I don't know. I think this song has enough. It's unique enough in that era of more heavy rocking kind of stuff. It does have that kind of almost jazzy jam kind of vibe, but other than that, yes, I'm not sure if it's going to go many rounds further unless it comes up against your favourites, the Edge of Chang in the next round. So let's take a vote as if we needed to. I will be voting for Jam Song. Ezra?
Yep, Jam.
Jam Song. There's 2 for Jam Song. Phil? Take your time. We'll come back to you. Alistair?
Jam.
Do you want to know what Peely thinks? Peely says, I remember thinking Jam Song was tosh on release, but I quite enjoyed it this time and ended up playing it on repeat. The one finger synth and crooning grooves as it goes on.
I think he's got a point. So he's going to go for Jam Song by the sounds of it. And it's a Jam Song bonanza. And that wraps up this evening's proceedings, episode 7 of the F.A.L.L.O.U.T.P.O.D.C.A.S.T. Going through into the next round is Hexen Definitive / Strife Not, TwisterKetamine Sun, and Jam Song. And into the bin goes the gut of the quantifier, Caddy Bagman, symbol of Mordgan, and Ronnie the Onesie. And let's see where fate takes us. Going forward, next episode is episode 8, if you're counting numerologically. We will be, as I threatened last week, joined by a guest this time. Last time I was lying, this time I'm telling the truth. And that should be fun to see how that goes. That'll be the final episode. I can't tell you any more other than it'll be the final episode of season 1 of the Fallout. And then we'll do a special, and then we'll have a bit of a rest for a couple of weeks, if that's okay with you, chaps.
Fine, lots of good behaviour.
Yep. That's good.
Exactly. Shall we say our goodbyes to each other now? Bye.
See ya.